All right, folks, we've heard some members of Congress and our national security community talking about the threat of radical Islamists coming across our porous southern border, but we also need to be concerned about the Canadian border, especially what's happened over the last couple of days there. Earlier today, we saw police swarming around the Parliament building in Ottawa, Canada. This after a man opened fire, killing a soldier who was guarding Canada's war memorial. Canada's Parliament Hill remains on lockdown. One gunman was shot dead. There were also reports of other flashpoints around Ottawa as well. One member of Parliament said he heard at least 30 gunshots inside, and police were looking for at least one, maybe more shooters as well. Police say shots were also fired at a nearby mall and hotel. And earlier this week, 2 Canadian soldiers were run down by a car driven by a suspected Islamic militant. One of the soldiers was killed. The other suffered less serious injuries. And this was the first such incident inside Canada since they joined the fight against Islamic State militants, and better said terrorists. The 25-year-old who was guilty of running down the police officer was shot and killed by police after a car chase following the attack. And mounted police officials say that he had recently fallen under the influence of radical Islam. With more on the terror threat to our north, we're joined now by Newsmax TV's John Bachman.
Well, Steve, one very interesting thing about that terror attack that occurred earlier this week in Quebec. Investigators found a knife on the ground near the car that belonged to that terrorist there, and they say this case is similar to one in London last year in which an al-Qaeda-inspired extremist and another man ran over a soldier with a car before hacking the off-duty soldier to death. The Islamic State group has urged supporters to carry out attacks against Western countries, including Canada, but it was not known if the suspect in Quebec had any specific ties to any foreign Islamic militant groups.
We're here in the 17th Division military base just outside the city of Arraqqa.
You remember that video back a few weeks ago, and back to the ISIS threat in Canada. Remember, the FBI sending that warning out about the man in this propaganda video released by ISIS. Some experts have said that accent is a North American one, perhaps Canadian, especially when you hear the way he said out. You know how Canadians say it, more like oot. Forgive the attempt at the accent there. And don't forget, just across the Canadian border in Minnesota, we have confirmed cases of Americans flying over to Syria to train and fight with Islamic militants. Douglas McCain, Ibrahim Mohammed, both from a local Somali community there, and also both turned out to be homegrown terrorists. There's also Mohammed Hamza Khan, the 19-year-old, also a U.S. citizen from the Chicago suburbs. He was arrested at O'Hare Airport trying to fly to Syria to join ISIS. We also had those reports of the 3 teens in Colorado perhaps trying to fly over to the Middle East to join ISIS. The FBI estimates that about 100 Americans have joined the fighting in Iraq and Syria on the sides of various militant groups, including ISIS. But if we've learned anything over this last week, Steve, it appears we need to do a better job of sealing off all our borders because the threats are all around us here in the United States, in Canada, perhaps in Mexico as well.
Yeah, absolutely, John. Thank you. Great report. And yeah, folks, this just stresses the need to be vigilant on our northern border as well as our southern border. And of course, in reality, just about anybody could seemingly get across either border. Certainly, it's been proven time and time and time again. When you are talking about the Mexican border, we've seen all kinds of examples of people getting through, and getting through dressed as Osama bin Laden, and the points of entry where there is absolutely no border patrol and no fence, or a fence that's this high off the ground that underneath that you could just get right through. So we have our work cut out for us. That's absolutely true. And today we have increased security at Arlington National Cemetery. The FBI is asking all field officers to be on alert. Also, in addition, the Canadian Embassy in Washington, D.C. Enhanced security. The U.S. Embassy in Ottawa enhanced security. So we will keep an eye on this story as we go along, and keep it tuned right here to Newsmax Television for the latest on the shooting at the Canadian Parliament in Ottawa. When we come back, it's Gimme 5 right here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Don't you go away.